What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. And on today's figure review, we're going to be taking a look at the 1962 Bandai Japan Gigan. So here, let's get a bit of a close-up to seeing how much movement of articulation that this figure has. Start off, as you can tell, the arms, or his, what is it called? What do you call these? His knives, his scythes, or very deadly weapons for arms. But yeah, you can move them all the way around with ease, as they do not really hit the legs. And there we have it with the the arms. But moving on now to the legs. So same thing, they don't really hit anything, but like I guess if the arms were all the way down and vice versa, if you try to rotate either, well, I don't think, yeah, the arms, it's not no issue, as like it's barely, as you can tell, there's barely a gap for the arms to pass through. But with the legs, you do have to move. This does require that you move the arms in order to rotate the legs all the way around. Unfortunately for the tail, as you can see, there is a seam here to where I guess you can rotate the tail, but for, I would say, most figures that they have for the Bandai Japan vinyl figures, that they have them glued on for a reason, and thankful for that, because if they were taken off and bringing up my next point, that if they were taken off, they probably just tend to be loose all the time, so it's probably best to keep them glued on and not really rotate them all the way around. So unfortunately, no movement in this Gigan's tail. For the neck, really not much of any kind of movement, as it's just one piece connected to the whole body. For his fins at the back, there's not that much movement either, except for a mimicking of probably opening and closing, but it's probably best to just leave it as is, because you don't want to bend the plastic too much here now. But moving forward, for the colorization of this Gigan figure, he is a very, you would say, well, obvious a greenish color, but I've known and seen some pictures to where there is more different colorizations of a green color of this Gigan figure, to where there's the one that I have now. I don't know if this is the lightest version of green, but I know there's a darker green, and there's like a medium, and then there's like a lighter. So leave your comments to guess of which one this is, because even I don't really know. I don't really recall yet of an image of which kind of colored greenish Gigan, if it's the lighter one or if it's like the one in between. But I'll leave you up in the comments to decide that. But anyway, for the rest of his body, he does have a very golden-like color from the back of his body to almost to the tip of his tail, but fortunately, it does stop. And then at the front of his body, and like for parts of his body, in the front and in the back, it is covered in scales, and I'll get to that in a second. His fins are also in a golden like color, and with the rest of his remaining body, other two areas would be the silvery metallic cover on his toes, his hands, his blade, his mouth, and the tips of on his head. And the last thing being his red iconic visor. But going back to the scales on his body, and I think remember seeing it in one of those fact videos about a Godzilla movie, or just in general a fact about Gigan, that in the production, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that when they were designing Gigan for when it came to making the suit, and it's pretty sure this would be on point anyway, because the scales on his body are pretty familiar with another kaiju in the Godzilla franchise, and that being with his partner at the time from Godzilla vs. Gigan, that would be King Ghidorah, as King Ghidorah does pretty much have the same thing on his whole body, is golden like scales all over his body, and Gigan is partially covered in the same similar golden scales on his body as well. But alrighty, now we're going to take a move on forward to doing size comparisons with this Gigan figure. Alright, first up here we have Gigan next to the MechaGodzilla 1975 from Terror of MechaGodzilla. And as you can see, they're pretty almost on point at being at eye level, but I would say from your guys' point of view, watching the video, tell me what you think. Who towers over who? I'd say it's kind of pretty close, but from my point of view, I'd say it's MechaGodzilla's barely almost towering over Gigan. But let's move on. Alright, and here we have Gigan next to Godzilla 1975, also from the Terror of MechaGodzilla. And here we have, whoa, hello there, Kumonga. Oh, did not see that coming. But here we have Gigan extremely tower-overing this Kumonga Y-MSF figure. But of course, if I were to do this and have it up like so, and that is definitely out of frame, but you can definitely see how much, if Kumonga was weirdly standing in this position, but she is not. So even at that height, that's how much Gigan is towering over this Kumonga figure. And of course, here we are again with Gigan next to the Playmates Gorosaurus figure. And I believe trying to remember, but I believe I did a comparison between these two figures. And again, but if I haven't, this is the first time, but I'm pretty sure this is not. But anyway, Gigan is also towering over this Gorosaurus figure. All right. We've reached almost to the end of the video. And now I'm going to pass it along to FierceZilla Jr. now. All right, FierceZilla Jr., what's your final input on this Gigan figure? Well, all right then, if that's all you have to say, I just want to say thank you everyone for watching the video. Hope you'll stay tuned for another sorry about that. Stumbling on my words here, but hope you'll stay tuned for another new video tomorrow. Make sure, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe, and definitely check us out on Instagram at the FierceZilla. What do you mean that's not it? You have one more thing to say, FierceZilla Jr.? Okay, by all means, go ahead.